looking to up your real estate investing game? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sub2Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
Hey, Sub2ers. My name is William Tingle of Sub2Deals.com. I'd like to welcome you to this episode of the Sub2Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to. Now, today is another episode in our Real Investor series, where we feature real investors sharing real stories and actual deals. My guest today is Austin Wood. Austin is a real estate investor in New Philadelphia, Ohio. He's been investing for about 3 years, has been full-time for 2 of those. And so we're super excited to have him on today. So Austin, welcome to the Sub2Deals Show.
Thank you, William. It's fantastic to be here.
Well, man, I'm really excited to have you here. I'll tell you, interesting story about Austin. I met Austin when he messaged me while he was on his way to meet with his first Sub2 prospect. And I'll tell you, I remember telling my wife that day, I said, I really like the heck out of this guy. He messaged me and he asked me, what do I need to get this thing done? And I thought, you talk about a ready, fire, aim person. This is him. So yeah. So Austin, tell us a little bit about you. I know we'll get into that story a little bit later, but tell us about you. Who is Austin?
Hey man, that was a great intro. I appreciate the heck out of that. It's like I said, it's great to be here. You've been a huge part of my investing journey just from the very beginning. Obviously, that was my first real rental deal, or not primary occupants home kind of deal. You made it extremely easy. But basically, my background, I graduated high school. I planned on becoming a FBI agent, actually. I was in vocational school for law enforcement here in New Philadelphia, Ohio. And I ended up taking a hard right turn. I started delivering pizza, and then I quickly became the manager of that pizza shop. I became good friends with the owner, and he actually went up to the franchise and took me with him. So I spent a couple of years going store to store, building my entrepreneurship chip on my shoulder kind of thing, and eventually got my own store in 2017. I went on to do that for a couple of years. That was an awesome experience. Man, I was one of the only ones running that shop. It was a kind of a small town shop, so I had not a lot of help. So it was a lot of me getting there early in the mornings, listening to real estate podcasts, planning for what I was going to do next, And then when the opportunity came to exit that, I jumped in full time, like you say. Here we are.
It's one of the most impressive things about reading your story. You're 26 years old. You're already a full-time investor. I didn't order my Carlton Sheets course until, I was almost 40. So, I mean, somebody so young that's got such a jump, and that's incredible. I can't imagine.
Well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Of getting started at such a young age. So, I mean, you've just got so many opportunities. That's fantastic. So you said you ran your pizza place and you would listen to podcasts. So obviously, even though you eventually ran your own operation, you wanted something more than just the 70-hour a week. I was in restaurant for a long time. I know how that stuff works. So you wanted more than that from the very beginning. So what really got you interested in real estate? What steered you in that direction?
Oh, man. Well, I like to tell the story. When I was 13, I had a really fantastic mom. She took me to New York City for my 13th birthday. We toured Trump Tower. We toured the Empire State Building. I was mesmerized by all those huge buildings. I remember being on the rooftop. We got to tour the rooftop of the Empire State Building. And that was when I decided that one day I wanted to own huge skyscrapers, Obviously I'm not there yet, but that's the goal. What was your question?
No, I just said, what steered you? Obviously you were an entrepreneur. I mean, you got a job. I mean, it's very similar in a lot of ways to mine. I got a job in a restaurant as a dishwasher and worked my way up, and eventually ran Pizza Hut, actually.
Really?
For several
funny.
years. But never owned one, so I mean, right. I didn't take that next step, but you went through the process, worked there, bought your own place, ran your own franchise, but you wanted something more. And I understand entrepreneurism. I mean, I'm around it all the time, but what got you interested in real estate? I know you said your mom took you to New York and that kind of sparked it.
Well, when I started listening to all those podcasts, they talked about net worth and IRR and all that stuff. I became totally consumed in all of it. So I remember delivering pizza thinking each time I got a tip, this is going straight to my net worth. I'm saving this. This is like, I always kind of planned to head in this direction. I just didn't know how I would do it. And then when I came across your podcast, that was my aha moment was when I found your podcast. The way everything was laid out, super simple. And then I just, like you said, man, I took off running.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anybody that knows me knows if I'm involved in it, it is simple because that's just the way things are. If you want to teach people, you keep it simple. If you want to impress people, you make it complicated. Okay.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I felt like, I was fortunate. I mean, so this is about you today, but I have a ninth grade education. I had no choice but to work very hard to have anything. But I felt like I was very blessed in my success with real estate, and I really want to share that with other people. So keep it simple. It doesn't have to be complex. Anybody can do it. I'm a good example of that.
When you first started responding to me, I thought either this guy really is just obsessed with helping people, or he's about to ask for my credit card number. I don't understand why.
No, I have a hard time with that, actually, with the credit card number thing. I like to teach. I really do. Now, It's true, we have an educational side where we offer products, but we really do enjoy teaching a whole bunch. So I know you've been investing since 2018. Now, your first deal wasn't a sub-2. I understand you bought a duplex. How did you pull that off?
Oh man, that was a conventional loan, through a regular local bank. It was a duplex. I got a renter in there it helped me pay the mortgage. It taught me how to landlord, taught me a lot about real estate in general. It was a great stepping stone, and it actually has appreciated. I just found out. So that was my first house. It's been repair after repair since I bought it. I'm like, okay, but it's actually appreciated. So it did pay off, and so far real estate's continued to pay off.
Okay. So tell us, now you've been doing this now for 3 years, so you've probably evolved into some sort of a model. So what is your current business model? What do you like to do, and how do you like to dispose of them?
Well, I do strictly for acquisitions. We just focus on subject to. Our favorite way to get rid of them is obviously seller financing. That's my bread and butter. We have kept a couple as rentals. We have sold a couple, flipped a couple, but we find seller financing to be the best long-term strategy.
Right. Okay. So you bought your duplex, and I don't know, just kind of take us up to that point where you messaged me that day. Was that your only property at that time? Was your duplex?
Yes, okay. It was. So my partner and I that I had bought the pizza shop with decided once I found your podcast, we went over together. We were like, just going full steam ahead towards the subject to thing. And then that was right there. We found one in Cincinnati. We kind of reached out to her. I used some of the information I learned from you. And then I drove straight to her house.
I know. So you messaged me in the car on the way to her house.
Yep.
And, and this was over a year ago. So it refreshed my memory here a little bit. I know you messaged me and literally your Facebook Messenger said, I'm on my way to my first sub-2 lead. I'm not sure what contracts to use or what to do. Can you help me out? And I'm like, wow.
Man, I was going to get that thing under contract if we had to write it on a napkin.
Right. Exactly. And that's why you've been so successful, Austin, because really that's a phrase that we use in our coaching group: ready, fire, aim. I like you that. Prepare for that. You go out there and you just do it, and then we'll sort it out. Bring the deal in here, get it under contract, get it under control. You can always get out of your contract if things don't, pan out. But if it's a deal, we're going to do that thing. So if I remember right, and like I said, work with me on this a little bit. I think we got you some documents. I think you stopped at like a Kinko's or some copy place or something, didn't you? And picked them up.
I've done it every time, man. I've done it every time.
If I remember correctly. So now you focus on buying sub-2. Your disposition method is seller financing. And I know you branched out right away. I mean, the next thing I knew, you were saying, hey, I'm looking at a deal in Texas. And I think I actually hooked you up with another student that I've got in Texas.
Jessica, man, she was extremely helpful.
Yeah, Jessica's great. She did a podcast with us too.
Yeah, I listened to it.
Yeah, she's wonderful. So, and I mean, she's been super successful as well. So, but you're going from Ohio to Texas, and you're just bouncing all over the country right away. So, how did that happen?
So that's the kind of thing. So when I started doing this, I started doing it on my own. Kind of tried to stay in Ohio at first, but I quickly realized that was going to take a lot of lead sourcing. And I found, honestly, I kind of pride myself on my ability to network. Mm-hmm. So I get all of my leads from meeting awesome people. I just put myself out there and I try to make connections in all kinds of states. And I find myself stumbling upon all kinds of fun opportunities, you know. So we tried to focus on Ohio for a little while, but then we just decided we were going to include the traveling costs in our deals and go take this nationwide. I mean, there's no reason not to.
Right.
You know, so we decided that's why we like to use attorneys. We're still a young company. We like to use attorneys in every state.
Mm-hmm.
We don't claim to know everything. We like to play it safe for now, but we plan to keep running.
Yeah. Okay. So you're working all over the country. How many states are you buying in now?
Oh man, I think we're in 7 now.
Oh yeah.
7.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any particular way that you choose a state, or is it just that's where the lead came from? That's where we're going to buy?
Wherever the leads blow in, that's where I'm blowing in.
Okay, I got you. So you talk about networking to generate leads, and we know that by far networking is your cheapest source of leads because you don't have marketing costs and that sort of thing. Really, you just meet people, you let them know what you do, and they give those to you. But here's a question I like to ask investors that are buying a lot of houses. If you had to generate quality leads within 24 hours, what would you do? What would you go out right this minute and do to have viable leads within the next 24 hours?
When you put it that way, I would absolutely go on PropStream. I would find all the most recent pre-foreclosures and I would go drive to their house. You know, I would just go in Ohio and knock door to door until I got one. I find that to be pretty reliable. A lot of the time it's vacant, but I mean, if you're willing to go knock on their door, you're going to get a conversation a lot of the time.
Right. And that's the interesting thing there, Austin. So many people aren't willing to knock on the door. They're afraid. They're afraid of what'll happen. But when I worked locally for 12 years, that was a source of, gosh, at least 1 to 3 deals a month was door knocking foreclosures. And I never got shot at and I never got beat up. Most people, if you're friendly and non-confrontational, they'll reciprocate in the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I totally agree on the foreclosures.
The Sub2Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle. We'll be right back. Have you ever had a seller give you a house? It's a pretty awesome experience. If a seller wanted to give you a house today, would you know what needed to be done to make the deal happen? Would you like to learn how? The Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook will show you exactly what you need to get those deeds and sell those houses with seller financing. Join the thousands of other investors across the country who learned how to get the deed with the Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook. Get the Ultimate Sub2 Guidebook today at sub2deals.com. Back to the show, the Sub2Deals Show with your host, Sub2 expert William Tingle.
And you brought up another interesting point. A lot of them will be vacant, and I find that to be the gold.
You do? How is that?
Well, think about it like this. If you're in foreclosure and I'm coming out to see you and you've already bolted, are you disassociated with that house?
That's a good point. That is a very good point.
When we go out and drive, and we don't do it much, we don't do much locally anymore. Our market is so screaming hot right now. An agent that we work with sent out a Facebook post a couple of days ago that said, just listed a house, can't even get in it to see it because of COVID. We can't show it for 12 days. Already had 10 offers, 50,000 over list.
I keep hearing that, man. That's
it is
wild.
Amazing here. So we don't do too much locally, but if you go out and you find that empty house, I mean, we're super excited because we're immediately skip tracing all over to find these people. Right. If you get them to answer the phone, they'll pretty much sign anything you put in front of them. So that's a good tip for you guys. You go nuts when you find those empty houses because they're in foreclosure. The house is empty. There's no, I want to stay. I want to keep my house. They've already bolted. So
you know, that's an avenue I haven't kind of chased too much. When it's vacant, I look around for them. I don't do a lot of skip tracing, to be honest with you. I look more old. I'm kind of old school the way I look them up. I use a bunch of random websites to find their phone numbers, and I call around. If I can't find them, I kind of move on to the next one. There seems to be plenty of pre-foreclosures.
If you find it vacant, do a little bit more research, see what the equity position is, especially if the equity position's there and they've just left because, people get into situations, divorce, a death, something where the house just is not, and equity doesn't even matter to them. But if you've got that kind of situation, you put a private eye on them, you find out.
I'm going to look at it differently now. Thanks for that.
Right. Yeah, sure. No problem. So you focus, you said you would generate leads by pre-foreclosures, which I totally agree with. And I'm telling you, I'm super excited when the market comes back for those.
Absolutely.
Right now, they're limited. but when it comes back, it's going to be nuts. So what do you use? You said you pull a list. So what are your favorite tools that you use in the business to help you?
Man, my favorite tools are definitely number one, PropStream, and number two, Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I use the hell out of Facebook. I use the heck out of PropStream, and that's all I need. Yeah.
PropStream's great. What about follow-up? What do you use as a CRM to follow up with the seller you speak with that says, we're not ready to do this today?
We do use Podio. Mm-hmm. We do have a follow-up system with Podio. We're looking to change CRMs at the moment. Right. But like I said, we like to do a lot of things old school.
Mm-hmm. I got you. People, they poo-poo old school, but I'm telling you that stuff really works.
Keep it simple.
And it was interesting. I actually I told you earlier, I spoke to Armando Montalongo the other day. And one of the tips that he gave was that he said, when the market's super hot, when everybody starts saying there aren't any deals in, for example, the MLS, and they all leave that source, that's when you start finding deals there again. He said, so we still get a lot of deals off the MLS right now because most investors have abandoned it because they say there's nothing there. So that's something he shared the other day. Yeah. Okay. So PropStream, we love PropStream. We agree. I tell you, we use PropStream every day. I think it's a fantastic tool to use. So,
do you use it to send mailers at all? Do you use that
feature? What? Mailers are our last resort.
Yeah.
My favorite mailing has always been something I call soon to expire listings. They've been listed at least 90 days. They have a price reduction. They have notes indicating motivation, bring all offers, motivated seller, and vacant. If you can find those, it's kind of like lists. I guess I was ahead of my time. I started this about 15 years ago. I would list stack in the MLS.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for specifics because this is what I found out, Austin. Most people list with an agent because that's just how you sell a house. That's all they know. Everybody's not a real estate investor. We know a lot of stuff, but your typical Joe homeowner, well, I want to sell my house. I guess I need to call an agent. And the agent comes out and they blow a lot of sunshine up their skirt. Oh, we'll have this house sold in a week. And right now that might be true, but in general, it's not. So they list their house and a week goes by and a month goes by and 2 months go by. And if they're in a situation where they really need to sell, maybe they're getting a divorce or they've lost their job. A lot of times they won't share that with the agent, but they're just super anxious sellers. So when they call the agent and say, why hasn't my house sold? The first thing the agent says is, well, let's reduce the price.
Of course. Okay. Yeah.
So now we've got a house that's been on the market 2-3 months. It's had a price reduction. And maybe the agent will put a little note in there for the other agents. Bring all offers, motivated seller, as is, can't make repairs, whatever. So when you start looking for those factors, you really zone in on a motivated seller. Now, we like to mail to those people because they have a contract with an agent. Right. But otherwise, we've never been heavy mailers. We door knock on pre-foreclosures and we mail to MLS long-term listings.
Nice. How about when you're selling your properties, like for instance, with owner financing, do you ever use agents?
We use an agent to list it in the MLS for exposure purposes. But it's very rare for an agent to bring you a buyer because we're looking for a discount. Typically. We don't want to pay more than 2%. Because we still use all of our old marketing avenues, but we use that agent for a couple of things. One is, of course, to list the house, get it in the MLS. Two is to show it for our potential buyers, because most of the time we're remote, so we're not there to show it. And they can execute a contract and do a lot of work for us. So we'll pay our agent 2% to get that done.
See, I've been able to sidestep that whole process. That's one thing I love about where we're at right now. Whenever I travel out there, I just find that I'm able to drum up a whole lot of showings just by Facebook posts and going out and meeting people and flyers. And, like I said, I like to be old school about it.
Oh yeah, I agree. Between Facebook and signs and banners and all that stuff you do with your house, between the paper in the neighborhood with the choose your neighbor flyers for every house.
I love that.
Stuff like
I love that.
You can, because everybody knows somebody they want to be their neighbor.
Absolutely.
And we're seller financing, baby. We're flexible. If we got the
yeah.
right person, we can be flexible on that down payment, and we can spread the down payment over time with interest, and we can do all kinds of stuff. So absolutely. Selling's not hard right now. Selling is not hard.
That's for sure.
That's for sure. Okay. So what about your typical criteria for a sub-2? Let's say you get a lead. What are you looking for to decide if it's something that you're going to buy or something that you're going to pass on?
Well, typically, if we're looking to owner finance it, we're just going to look at the interest rate spread, and we like to make $400 a month cash flow profit on each deal if we're seller financing it. If we're looking to just flip it, we'll look for value add. Maybe we can put a little bit into it and get a lot out of it. We like to be versatile with the way we look at each deal.
I got you. Okay. And a lot of people don't realize this too, but you can buy a zero equity deal, hold it with seller financing, and make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 over the next 3 or 4 years with that house.
Even negative equity, man. That's what's so great about Sub2. It's phenomenal.
If your underlying mortgage is where you need it to be, they're great. So we're sold on Sub2 for sure. So tell us about something you're working on right now.
Oh man, right now we have this crazy one in Gulfport, Mississippi. Something we've never ventured into before. It's a waterfront home on the bayou in. It's a beautiful house. It's definitely vacation rental kind of material. We're trying to seller finance it. However, it's $579,000. I don't know how many seller finance buyers exist at that level, but I have had some interest. So I'm going to keep trying to go that route. But we're likely going to use that as a vacation rental if it doesn't work out.
Okay. So you're just going to like Airbnb it or something like that?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, you consider keeping it for yourself or?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the biggest plus side to that.
I know it. I know we're actually waiting for the crash so we can find something really nice that we want to buy.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I know what you're talking about. Gulfport, Mississippi. Well, what's the median price down there right now? About 300.
Yeah, 300, 350.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, this is a little bit nicer. So tell me about that deal. How did you find it? How did you find that lead?
Oh man, through one of the connections I built on Facebook, it worked out to be a perfect subject-to situation. They had been on the market for over 2 years with an agent, various agents. They were not able to sell it. They wanted very little down. It was a very, very nice woman who refinanced right at the end there for us, got our interest rate down to 2.5.
Right.
So it's just restarted at 30 years. It's a great setup, man. We gave her $5,000 to be honest with you.
$5,000 for over $500,000 house. That's what
1%
down. Yeah,
myself. Yeah,
that's great. That is great. What do the payments run on a house for that price? What's that?
Our payments are $2,400 a month.
$2,400 a month. Wow, that's great. All right. So tell us about your most unusual deal.
Oh man, it had to be in Corpus Christi, Texas. I went down there not knowing anything about anything. And we had it was 2 houses on one lot. They were both in horrible condition. Neither were livable. I did not know what I was doing whatsoever. I was just going to attempt to seller finance it. Basically, I went to Walmart, got some for sale by owner signs, put some flyers up, had an open house, and it just turned into a bidding war. And it was just the way how smoothly it went, how I had my down payment in my hand the very same day. She came back 30 minutes later with the money. I called my partner. I was like, this is our strategy, man. We found it.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you listened to the episode we did on the 12 houses to freedom, buying 12 houses a year and how you can turn that into a $500,000 a year income?
Absolutely. I made my wife listen to that one. Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. It's, you see all these guys out here all the time. They're always talking about grinding 24 hours a day and buying 10, 15, 20 houses a month. And I'm like, don't you want to live your life? Don't you want to enjoy it?
Well, that's the thing, man. For me, it's like what I'm doing, I'm traveling around and I am enjoying it. This doesn't work to me. I get to help people and make money and travel, and I'm just loving life right now. Yeah. I hope nothing changes.
That's great. So tell us, Austin, a lot of great information, how you got started. Obviously, you're an example of how if you just want to do it, you can do it. So if you
Thanks,
had
man.
any advice for a new investor who's just getting started, what would that be?
Man, I think it was Robert Kiyosaki who said one of the biggest defects in life was the inability to ask for help. Now, I personally, I think I was fortunate to not be born with that defect. And I think if I had to give one piece of advice, it would just be put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Look stupid. You're going to have to in the beginning. And if you don't in the beginning, you're going to end up looking stupid at the end. And that's never good. So
Yeah, I totally agree there. I would add to that. I would find somebody that knows the things that you want to know and
absolutely.
work with those people. So absolutely, that's true. Well, Austin, thanks so much for being here with us today. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy house buying schedule to jump on with us and share your story and your success. We're super proud of you and glad to hear that things are working out for you.
It was an absolute pleasure, man. You're such a great help to the whole community. I know everybody loves you. Just keep doing what you're doing and helping people. And I love the groove you got going on, man. I hope to be good friends.
All right. Thanks.
Thank
Sub2ers, that is it for this episode of the Sub2Deals Show podcast. You can find show notes for this episode along with a complete transcript at sub2podcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe and give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast. It only takes a minute, and it helps others discover the show. It would also be great if you would join us in our free Facebook Sub2 group at sub2forum.com. So until next time, keep learning, keep talking to sellers, and you will buy some houses.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sub2Deals Show with William Tingle. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit sub2deals.com and on Facebook at Sub2Deals. We'll catch you next time.